Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Curse of Monkey Island. So, it's weird to have a cursor that blinks in a modern time frame. This is, of course, a very old game from 1997, so having a blinker cursor might save from burn-in on some CRT screens that would have been expected to be used back then. Or maybe it's just a good, helpful way of pointing out where the cursor is. Although, you really don't need that, because if you're moving the mouse at all, the only scenarios that you would have your mouse unplugged or the battery dead on a wireless mouse. Otherwise, you just move the cursor and you'd see it move, particularly when there's nothing else going on. But I guess the blinking cursor actually is the Scum VM cursor, because it gets replaced with a more standard crossbones cursor, custom. You kind of don't even get that level of artisticness nowadays. If you are playing a mouse and cursor game, they tend to just stick with whatever your Windows standard is, maybe put a little bit of a skin on top of it. There's probably some accessibility issues on that. It also occurred to me, either I misread it, but I swear I saw that this game originally didn't have voice acting. It would have been really weird for it to not have voice acting, and it is definitely an element of the amount I would personally enjoy a point-and-click adventure. I definitely don't want to play something that's not a talkie. If I am going to play something that's not a talkie, as in the characters speak out loud and there's voice acting, that it would have to be something very historically relevant, and that's something that I have nostalgia for. There are a couple of the Indiana Jones games that I don't think have voice acting in them, but that would be about it. It certainly affected my decision not to really play the Sierra games, although the incredible difficulty of the Sierra games themselves was a much bigger factor there. But even now, there are thousands upon thousands of visual novels that get sold on Steam, and it's a huge genre that any game critic should at least dip his toe into. But there is a large percentage of those that don't have voice acting, and most visual novels are from Japan, so you'd get probably just Japanese voice acting. And when you have a game that is boasting that has 40,000 words plus in it, which is the typical response there, typical amounts you can expect from a good visual novel, at least 40,000 words of reading is quite a lot of reading for what is supposed to be a video game in an interactive art form. So yeah, lack of voice acting, a big problem in a lot of games. Not as big of a problem in all games, though. Certainly, Minesweeper doesn't need voice acting, although you could probably record 5 lines of dialogue from Minesweeper and it would be more interactive. Anyways, let's get into this game. We solved exactly one puzzle in the last recording. There's a ridiculous amount of stuff here, and I'm gonna just see if we can just grab things.
It's bad luck to grab booty under a ladder.
So we have a really unclean loot crate, filthy loot crate, unsanitary loot crate.
I wouldn't be able to swim with all that treasure. I'll leave it here and come back for it when I have a boat.
I don't know what lucre is. So let's look at lucre, because I don't know what that word means.
It's the biggest pile of treasure I've ever seen.
Almost feels like it's being translated from another language. Let's take a flotation device.
No self-respecting pirate would be seen wearing that.
He's just going to refuse to pick up any of these.
I think LeChuck needs it more than I do. It got broken when the ship capsized.
The ship is upside down. These were all things that
That stuff is
the ghost
disgusting. Even for
pirate
a pirate.
LeChuck was going to give to
I don't know. That seems kind of creepy.
is her name Elaine? Well, the female interest in this love triangle.
I see more than enough of him already.
Yeah,
I'd
you
have no
can't
place
pick
to
up
plug
any
him
of
in.
this. No surprise.
No, champagne makes me all giggly.
So my guess here is that
I'd have no place to plug him in.
each of these items are either going to show up a second time in the game, or each of these items were leftover items that they had thought they were going to use in a puzzle, and they chose just not to use, but they had already animated them or drawn them, and so they just kind of dumped it all in here. Otherwise, it's just a collection of garbage. Let's see if we can open the porthole.
That's not the kind that opens.
We could look out the
Hey, I can
porthole.
see the ocean floor. And there's a really angry-looking skull floating around out there.
Yeah, we knocked the skull into the ocean for no good
if only I
reason.
could find a way to get up there and get out.
So let's just use the ladder here.
Because the ship is capsized, this ladder goes to nowhere.
So let's grab
Because
the
the
ladder.
ship is capsized, this ladder goes to nowhere.
Okay. What items do we have? Balloons. Balloons with gap in the
I
surface.
can't use a balloon with that.
Helium balloons with bag.
I can't use a balloon with that.
Let's grab this bag.
It's a bag of wooden nickels. Some treasure. Hey, there's a big diamond ring behind this bag.
So we have a diamond ring and a bag. And that seems like that's probably the only thing in the entire game, in the entire area. I kind of hate how this works. So we use the diamond to cut the thing and flood it, and then we should be able just to swim up. So with the exception of
Guybrush?
just wasting your
Guybrush!
time,
I thought I'd lost
that
you
was
forever.
another
Is it really you?
stupidly easy puzzle.
Yes, Elaine.
Yeah, Elaine, Captain Morley,
Did you really mean what you
or
said out
Mayor
there?
Morley, I think.
That I was the only man you ever loved?
Well, yes, Guybrush, I guess I did.
Elaine, I'm a man of action. A swashbuckler, a rogue, a wanderer, a man who can hold his breath for 10 minutes. I have no ties and no regrets. I sail with the wind and go where adventure takes me. But somehow something always leads
Guybrush,
me.
stop babbling.
Elaine, will you marry me?
Oh, Guybrush.
Oh, Wally? You're alive! But how did you survive the explosion?
I was thrown clear. I'm just lucky I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. Wow, Elaine, that's some ring.
It's gonna turn
Thank
out to
you,
be
Wally.
cursed.
It's an engagement ring from Guybrush.
Hey, that looks just like the big diamond ring LeChuck had in his treasure hold. You know, the one with that ghastly, disfiguring voodoo curse on it. Well, I'm sure Guybrush wouldn't have given you that ring. Anyway, I gotta be going. I hear there's a tattoo removal place on this island that's Freckles safe. See you at the wedding.
Guybrush!
So yeah, we're already at part 2. Like, the first part was barely 2 puzzles.
Oh no!
And this,
Elaine?
there was supposed to
She's
be
not
a...
gonna be happy about this.
This is the hard mode? Like, I almost feel like I skipped... It somehow chose the wrong mode. Because, yeah, that's super, super easy. And it kind of feels like what we have here in the cutscenes is like the first pass on a proposal for a cartoon. Which a Secret of Monkey Island cartoon would have been interesting, certainly. And there is a lot of speculation that the Pirates of the Caribbean Disney movies were supposed to be a Monkey Island movie series, but Disney just kind of cut LucasArts out of it. Now, this was well before Disney bought Lucasfilm and LucasArts and everything Lucas. But I could see that, certainly, that this was maybe some sketches and cutscenes that were either supposed to be a cartoon, or this was supposed to be a plot that was just getting some concept art out for a movie, which I guess was probably at times thought to be an animated movie, but live action would have worked just as well. You could make a Secret of a Monkey Island movie in live action right about now. That a Netflix idea like that would probably work fine, but then a lot of people would kind of confuse it with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and go, oh, this is just a ripoff. So let's look at Elaine and see if we zoom in.
I've got to change her back somehow.
So the first thing you would want to do is just see if you can take off the ring.
She must weigh a ton. No offense. Hey, I wonder how many carrots she... No, bad idea.
Alright, so we've got a glowing ember. Let's pick it up.
Ouch!
And then got a plaque. Let's look at that. We have this fort. We'll have to walk to that at some point.
Plaque put up by the Plunder Island Naturalist Society. Plunder Island feral chicken, one of Plunder Island's most common fauna and the animal for which our capital of Puerto Pollo is named.
So can we just pick it up?
I don't think so.
Do we have anything that would work? No, but what if we were to take the bag of nickels and try it on Elaine? See if we can make them look gold.
I don't think she'd like that.
Nope. Alright, let's look at this banner over on this side.
The Long John Silver Center for the Performing Arts presents Spear.
So we're gonna have feral chickens apparently everywhere, and we're on Plunder Island, part of Puerto Polo, which I guess is a different chain of islands.
Welcome to Puerto Pollo from the Plunder Island Poultry Brotherhood.
It's worth mentioning that the second game did have you going between 4 islands, I believe, and that felt a little bit weird because you could wander openly
No.
a lot more than you really should have been able to. It made a very big open world, which hurts point and click adventures. So this bridge is out, I think, so we can't go to the fort.
No. The bridge is uncrossable. It's just as well. There's nothing interesting in the fort anyway.
Yeah, well, with that kind of response, that's probably an indicator that we'll never go there. So perhaps there's a reaction here to that idea, and the probably not as well received Monkey Island 2 in that element, that now we are doing a very linear experience like the first game. But then I have to kind of question whether if not the Secret of Monkey Island, the first game, was just lightning in a bottle, and they should have never made a sequel in the first place. You don't get too many choices often in video game making. You just have to do what makes you money and try and stay in business, and certainly the popular demand would have been high. Well, oops, I didn't hit my timer, so we'll have to just assume that I have been talking for about 10 minutes. We'll go another 20 minutes. So we did have a map system in the first game for Monkey Island where you walked around like this and staying on the same island instead of having to load the different items, I think is the right move. So this way I think will take us to the voodoo lady, and maybe we'll run into something that stops us. This over here looks like LeChuck is in our final place. We'll have to go here, and we'll have to talk to people. Like, highly unlikely that we won't run into the exact same voodoo lady that we've seen in the first two games. And you just do have to kind of forget the Telltale story, because that's pretty much not in canon as far as anyone's concerned, or a reboot as far as anyone's concerned. So, spoiler for the Telltale game, the voodoo lady turns out to be the bad girl of the story.
Oh, it looks like it was thrown here by a typhoon.
But in these games, she's always been helpful.
I am Murray, the invincible demonic skull.
Murray's
I bring
back.
You warning from the infernal realms. Do not go farther into the swamp. Turn back. Turn back. Darkness will envelop you.
I don't see any reason why you'd listen to that warning. And until I actually end up dying, and this proves itself to be more like a Sierra game, I have to play it like a LucasArts game where there really is no chance of dying unless that's part of the story. How'd you get up here? What are you doing up there? Know anything about lifting curses?
Do you know anything about lifting curses?
Oh, right. I know a lot about lifting curses. That's why I'm a disembodied talking skull, sitting on top of a spike in the middle of a swamp.
You seem bitter.
I'm sorry, it's been a rough day.
And the voice acting here is not the best by modern standards.
How'd you get all the way up there?
Through sheer force of will.
Uh-huh.
All right, there was a bunch of those weird voodoo kids. They found me on shore and put me on top of this spike, all the time thinking they were so funny.
Now, if there truly is a point where voice acting was not in this game, all you would have been hearing while seeing the text is the clacking of teeth.
Do you need me to help you down?
Help! I need no help from you foolish mortals. I am Murray, the all-powerful demonic skull.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate the offer.
What are you doing up there?
I am
There
standing
is
as
a
testament,
Standing.
example
hanging as
here
a
of just
testament
having
to
the
power of the forces of evil that will one
two
day
very
claim
similar
victory over the
questions.
entire earth.
So it gets kind of boring to ask the same questions over and over again.
How long are you gonna keep doing that?
As long as it takes.
Must get pretty dull up there, I suppose.
Never! The powers of darkness are never dull. We will one day prove that... Oh, who am I trying to fool? I'm bored out of my skull. Figuratively speaking, of course.
It seems like I'm actually going to just accomplish a dialogue puzzle here just by clicking everything.
You seem restless.
Oh, I don't know. It's just that not many people come through this swamp.
What would you rather be doing?
I need to be out among the lesser people, terrifying them and causing pain and misery.
That would make you happy?
Yes, happy in a dark demonic way.
I'd love to stay and chat, but I gotta go.
Yeah, that oddly did not seem to solve anything.
Hey, Murray, remember this?
I'd still appreciate it if I could have that back.
What would you do with it without your collarbone?
No, never mind.
I don't like how big this is. I feel like if they had scaled it just a little bit smaller to about right here, that way you could click on something and then not have to go to the extreme edge. Perhaps I've just been trained as somebody that has two monitors enabled. moving to the edge of a window is not something you generally want to do. So there's a wreck ship that you can interact with in this scene, and a bovine skull, and that seems to be it. So it just has you have a conversation for no reason, and this looks like a direct trace from previous games. It doesn't seem like they really redrew a lot of or reconceptualized a lot of this stuff. So let's see if we can do a bag of nickels for some gum.
Wow, I got a whole pack of gum.
Interesting. And then let's grab this alligator tongue. And there she is. And that started the conversation. I was gonna steal the voodoo pins. Who are you and how did you appear like that? Do I really need that line of dialogue? I should know who she is. Don't I know you from somewhere? Boy, have I got some stories to tell you. Nice place. I love what you've done with it.
Nice place. I love what you've done with it.
Thank you. You'll have to excuse the mess. The kids came over to play with their paper voodoo dolls. They're adorable children. Would you like to see some pictures?
No, please, no. For love, that's all good and holy, no. I can't think of anything I would hate more. Like, I'd like to see some pictures, actually. That's not an option. Because... And I feel like this is going to be a joke where he's going to say, sure. But I'd like to see what kids they're referring to. If they're trying to introduce some children or grandchildren of the voodoo lady.
Perhaps later.
Yes, there's no time for that now. I sense that something terrible has happened.
Hey, you're good. Something terrible has happened. I finally proposed to Elaine.
Congratulations. That doesn't sound so terrible.
And when I placed the engagement ring on her hand, she was placed under a horrible pirate curse and trapped for eternity as a solid gold statue.
Oh, that explains it. I was struck with a wave of overwhelming hatred and anger.
Yeah, that LeChuck was a pretty mean guy.
I was talking about Elaine.
Well, there's no time to worry about that now. We have to hurry.
Do not panic, Guybrush. She will be safe until we can break the curse. You only have to worry about her being stolen. Where did you hide her?
Hide her? I can't tell you, it's too secret.
Oh, shoot.
You left her out there on the beach, didn't you?
You make it sound so incompetent.
Go, Guybrush, hurry, before you're too late.
And see, that's just immediate scene
Elaine!
jump.
I've got to get her back. This is so embarrassing.
Even if
Looks
this
like I'm
was
gonna
like
need
a
some more.
9-act game, since the first act was so short, it implies
Someone's
that this
stolen
is a
Elaine.
super short
That
game.
is unfortunate. It will be difficult to get her back.
Do you know who kidnapped her?
Not for certain, but I suspect that it's the mangy pirates anchored in Danger Cove.
Can you give me something to lift the curse?
No, LeChuck's curse is a very powerful one. Fueled by his anger and his intense frustration in dealing with the opposite sex. I have nothing here to lift so powerful a curse, but there is one way.
Great, tell me.
And I'm just kind of doing nothing but
Replace
listening
curse
to the
ring with
dialogue.
a pure one of greater or equal value. A good guideline is 2 months' salary.
So I need to find a huge uncursed diamond ring. Let's see.
Isn't there a more budget-conscious way to lift this curse?
You should be able to do it with virtually no out-of-pocket expense.
Perfect. How?
Legends speak of a whopping big diamond ring on Blood Island.
So it looks like we are going to go to
Island.
different islands.
I've never heard of it.
Still.
You will soon become quite familiar with it. But you must be careful, Guybrush. I have foreseen that your journey will be filled with peril and deception. I have also seen that Blood Island will be the place where you will die.
Let's see.
Die? Did you say die? As in me, dead?
Don't be such a baby.
Isn't there a less dangerous way?
No, the value of the ring on Blood Island comes from its emotional significance. It represents a pure, true love, a power greater than any other.
Oh, that's sweet. I think I have something in my eye.
Do not mock the voodoo priestess.
Interesting change in the background audio. Let's see, so how will I find the ring? Let's just ask all the questions, I guess.
How do I get to Blood Island?
These are probably
you will
hints.
need 3 things. A map to Blood Island, for the journey is a long and dangerous one.
Okay,
A seaworthy ship to take you there.
got it.
And an experienced crew.
Okay, that
Map,
sounds
ship,
Monkey
and crew.
Island-ish.
Got it. Well, how will I find the ring on Blood Island?
All I can say is that I see a long and painful history connected with that ring.
Sounds like we're gonna
And I
get some
feel a
other
great
characters'
sadness
backstory,
associated with it.
like
You will
perhaps
learn more once you have actually
Elaine,
found the
Elaine's
island.
parents, or even Guybrush's real parents. Going back into Guybrush's actual parents would probably be helpful to fix the weird ending of the second game.
Blood Island sounds dangerous. You have to come with me.
No, I cannot. I have lived on 3 different islands in the past 6 years. I do not wish to travel anymore. Besides,
Now-
this derelict is still in escrow.
Mentioning 3 islands in the last 6 years might even be a internal joke of maybe they rebooted Monkey Island 3 different times, and there are other prototypes out there. When you're talking a 6-year gap between games, particularly a point-and-click adventure, which are kind of easier and faster to turn out, that does imply some form of either lack of interest in making a sequel or development hell. But who will explain the gaping plot
But who
holes?
will explain away gaping plot holes? You've got to come. You're my only hope.
No, Guybrush, there is another.
Blood Island, here I come.
Okay. It would be interesting, I suppose, if the Secret of Monkey Island series jumped to a new Guybrush Threepwood Jr. Or perhaps you go with a Threepwood twins type concept where you have like a female character who's smart and a male character who's adventurous, and they play together. That way you always have somebody to make snide comments whenever you try something stupid, a point and click adventure. That was one of the beauties of Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, is you don't just have Indiana Jones on screen. Most of the time you have Indiana Jones and another character who is making fun of him, or being the straight man, as it's called, to the comedic man, or vice versa, being the comedic man to the straight man. Having a single character severely limits the amount of dialogue that can be said that isn't just being said out loud to the player, which often has characters sounding pretty crazy. Let's see. Let's, I guess, click this one and this one. There's a lot of dialogue
I
options here.
finally defeated LeChuck and his skeleton pirates.
True evil can never be destroyed completely.
Almost certainly
But I heard him
LeChuck
blow
is
up
going to
and
come
everything.
back.
You'd be surprised at how much abuse an evil undead zombie pirate can take.
How can I finally... He has a great response to the ending of the second game. Big Whoop was the amusement part in the park in the fantasy in weird ending.
I finally found Big Whoop and was enormously disappointed.
Big Whoop is pure evil. You were lucky to escape alive.
I can't remember much about it. Just that I was expecting so much more and felt so let down.
This is a direct commentary.
It is the source of much of LeChuck's power.
I'm never going back there again.
I have foreseen otherwise.
Oh man, are we gonna have to go back to Big
Return
Whoop?
to Big Whoop and confront LeChuck once again.
So how can we finally?
How can I finally
defeat
destroy him for good?
No one knows. His power seems to grow with every incarnation. You may have dealt with him for now, but this respite can only be temporary at best.
What makes you think LeChuck will be back?
Some men can search their entire lives and never discover their reason for being. LeChuck has found his. To perpetually rise from the dead and torment you and Elaine. It's what he does best.
There's a considerable lack of action happening here. I guess that is a problem with a lot of point and click adventures. That once you get into these dialogue loops, you're not gonna have really much gameplay unless it is a dialogue puzzle.
I want to know what.
So you can easily spend 10 minutes just going through all this dialogue.
Oh, this. This is just a fondue I'm making for tonight. Would you like to try it?
Does it have any skink toes in it?
A few.
I'll pass.
Let's see. I'd like to know more about safe hair replacement systems. Where did that come from? Let's learn more about the island.
What island is this, anyway?
You have landed on Plunder Island.
Plunder Island. Sounds appropriately piratey.
Naturally. It's a sort of retirement community for ex-pirates and their spouses.
That's an interesting idea.
Sounds exciting.
Lately, there has been all too much excitement on the island. All centering around Governor Marley, LeChuck, and a giant chicken.
Elaine is governor of this island, too?
Actually, Elaine is the governor of the entire Tri-Island area, comprised of Melee, Booty, and Plunder Islands. She
Interesting.
moved to her fort here on Plunder after the kitchen and landscaping staff quit her Booty Island mansion.
What about this giant chicken business?
Ah yes, Guybrush. You have landed on an island gripped
It's
by
just
the cold,
way too much
clammy
setup.
hand of fear.
Don't you think you're being a bit overdramatic?
This was a peaceful island until the great beast landed on our shores. Some say it was sent to make the islanders pay for their cruelty. Others claim it was simply blind fate. Whatever the impetus.
Way too
it
long.
came.
We're literally gonna spend 20 minutes on this. Let's just scream.
What? I'm not even at the scary part yet.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It was El Pollo Diablo, the giant demon chicken. Tall as a man and twice as powerful, his massive drumsticks propel him through the dark jungle with ease. No one has seen the beast, but on the eve of the full moon, his blood-curdling squawk can be heard from every corner of this wretched island. In the dark of night, he roosts, patiently watching, waiting for the one day.
No, wait. Don't tell me. Let me guess.
So my guess is there is no giant chicken. He's crossing the road to freedom. He's gonna buck the system. Establishes a new pecking order. He's hatching a diabolical scheme. If I can say the word right.
He's crossing the road. To freedom!
He roams the island, exacting terrible vengeance on those who would capture and eat his smaller brethren.
Oh, give me a break.
There were once
So-
others like you, skeptical to the true nature of the beast. But they're all dead now, pecked into a bloody pulp by his savage beak. But I'm sure you have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, right, whatever.
It's just in there. We have like one more thing we can ask. But him being prompted to add comedic responses is just dragging out this conversation. And here's how you solve this real easy. You end up here. Guybrush, Threepwood, instead of finding her, which we've done in the past 2 games, instead finds just a crystal ball sitting on the chair. You pick up the crystal ball, it brings her in from another island, and she telecommunicates with you and gives you 3 to maybe 12 lines of dialogue with maybe 1 or 2 comedic interruptions by Guybrush about you've got a lot to do and you've got to do it now, so start playing the game. I will call you on this crystal ball. Take the crystal ball with you, and then just whenever you need a hint or whenever the game wants you to have a conversation with her, it pops up more specifically and more varied and broken up at times. So instead of hearing about what island this is, you would get that when you entered the city. She would just tell you, this is Plunder Island and here's the information. Or when you hear about when you get to a section that actually directly correlates with the giant chicken, she would call you and tell you about the giant chicken. That way, instead of just standing here in the same place looking at the same thing, I'm really stopped from finding anything more on the screen while all of this is going on. There really hasn't ever been a good point-click adventure game that would show a cutscene and then not really want you to pay attention to that cutscene or that dialogue choice scene so that you could look for other collectibles. It'd be an interesting idea, but it would also be kind of counter-logical because you would not be paying attention to the dialogue so much. But most people, particularly in modern days, can multitask, or at least think they can multitask. Actually, most people can't multitask, but they think they can and like to try. So listening to dialogue, particularly if you're not having to choose any choices while scanning the screen for things to pick up, would speed up the whole process. And this already feels like a short game, yes, but stretching out the time by making me go through so much dialogue is not really helping it. And we may find that this actually is the only dialogue in this act.
How did you end up on Plunder Island?
The vast majority of it.
My location in the swamp on Scab Island wasn't ideally situated.
So you moved to a swamp on a different island?
I just said I could see the future. I never claimed to be an expert in real estate.
Thanks. I've heard all I needed to know.
And yet this still brings us back. So the only thing we haven't clicked on is this.
I want to know more about safe hair replacement systems.
I can imagine. Didn't you have a beard the last time I saw you?
I sure did. A really cool one. I wonder what happened to it.
I guess these are just joke responses.
I want to know more about a diet I can live with.
I'll share with you knowledge passed from mother to daughter in my family for generations.
What's that?
Low fat, high fiber. It works.
So, yeah, these are just joke responses that feel like they should have been used against other characters instead of just her.
I want to know more more about variable rate mortgages.
Bad idea. Though attractive to the first-time homeowner, the rate reacts wildly to fluctuations in the market and can work against the buyer over time. You're best off starting with a 20% down payment and a variable rate mortgage, then refinancing at a fixed rate after 1 or 2 years as the market warrants.
Could you repeat that?
No.
I don't know if that's particularly great advice. I would say get a fixed rate if the rates are low, which they probably will be, and go for as long as you can, and then try to pay off the mortgage
Thanks for
early
your help. Gotta
by making 1 to as many as possible extra payments directly on the principal of the loan. But that certainly is the hard part. The bigger issues with getting houses and mortgages.
What a relief.
Okay, so I just pulled a pin and that did something to this guy we haven't even seen.
I don't need it. It's just a toy.
So, the bigger issue is finding a house that you can actually afford the mortgage payments on.
I don't need it.
Wouldn't.
It's just a toy.
You want your expected monthly income to be ideally 3 or 4 times
want those
bigger
dull
than
scissors.
what your mortgage payment will be. If your mortgage payment is taking half of your monthly income, it's too high, half or more, certainly. Generally speaking, I would say try to buy a new house as new as possible. Old houses are other people's problems. You'll have often people who do the wrong kinds of repairs or maintenance, or don't do repairs or maintenance at all, to old houses, where new houses may have problems, but they tend to be new problems and not as big of a deal. There is perhaps a trick if you can buy a house and rent it to somebody you really, really trust, and have them buy a house and rent that house to somebody you really, really trust, because then you can write off repairs and maintenance as a business expense and have kind of this secondary business that is not really designed to make any money. So you would charge the other person the amount of the mortgage and maybe just a little bit, like $10 over the amount of the mortgage, things like that, but not try to make any extra profit from it. Whereas if you are putting repairs and maintenance to your own house, you can't really do that. And that is a really dangerous prospect in a lot of other ways, because it then puts you at the mercy of somebody else. If they die, lose their job, decide just not to pay, or if they run into major improvements that you can't afford, or major maintenance that you can't afford, say the pipe bursts or something, then you've got 2 problems: a unhappy leasee or renter, and a unhappy situation with the house you bought. And somehow this game has gotten me talking about houses and mortgages instead of actually playing the game, which is weird, certainly. And we've gotten basically nowhere, and that's where we're gonna have to end this recording. Like, we'll make another save, and that's pretty much it. Perhaps I've made a mistake by choosing 30-minute episodes, and in this case it was probably closer to a 40-minute episode, but boy, when you look at this and just see how completely I don't know what the right word to say here is, just how completely slow this game is. It's really, really slow. I don't feel like Monkey Island was anywhere that slow. Sure, you could get confused or miss something and have to wander around an island quite a bit, but you usually would still be able to move to different places and talk to different people and hear a lot more life. And maybe we'll get in the city and see more of that, but this intro is really slow. And then we also had the credits at the beginning. That certainly didn't help anything. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.